angry black woman personality, and I had never heard of that. Do you get those assumptions as well?
Spoken, but when I'm passionate, I'm then the angry black woman. It's not me getting angry, and I don't belong to anyone. I've never been part of anything. I've always been an individual. But I learned very quickly that you can't work with everybody, because actually,
not every stone will fit in every basket. I don't care what anyone thinks. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like this conversation, off you pop. Welcome to MAMWAA. I'm Gordy, your host, and this is the podcast that includes you into my most famous song lyrics.
He's a middle-aged man with an attitude, and he didn't even have one till he met you.
That's right, I'm the middle-aged man, and my attitude will chatter us through all things that I'm passionate about, from spirituality, the gym and fitness, food, travelling, and music or movies. Quick disclaimer, this list is not exhaustive. So you can get on or you can get off and join us for the episodes that you like the sounds of. Dip in or dip out, as long as you keep dipping. Either way, we've got something to say, and we're going in 3, 2, 1 production company and a woman taking the theatre world by storm with groundbreaking drama work and outreach projects in the community. Welcome to today's episode of MAMWAA, where we're exploring the ins and outs of being a working actor and running a successful theatre company with Marlene McKenzie. Welcome to the podcast, Marlene. How are you doing?
I'm good, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So we've got a lot to get through today. I'd really like to discuss your experiences on what it takes, not just to get started with a theatre company, but keeping it going in the industry. Yeah. Some of that will what we'll talk about. Some of that will be kind of the challenges that you've experienced in that process. But for the listeners, I'm going to give you a bit of a background. Marlene and I, we first met 15 years ago doing some performance workshops. And some of that actually resulted in us being cast in some productions together. So it's been a few years, it's been a minute, but it's great to see you again.
15 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, with Mooville, your theatre company, you've been 10 years with Mooville this year. So, congratulations, firstly. That's absolutely amazing. What a milestone. And I guess that comes like month on month, year on year. Have you ever just had a wow moment where you've gone, oh, it's been 2 years? Oh my God, it's been 5 years. And then.
Yeah, when I got past the 5 years, believe it or not, there's been moments where I've gone, okay, you know what, I'm just going to give up now.
Okay.
And that's because of the fighting. But we always tend to kind of go to the things that are negative. But then when you think, 5 years, I've done 5 years already. Wow. So I think my 5-year mark, I was like, okay, they always say if a business lasts over 3 years, then you're doing all right. So when I think the 7 years mark came, I think there was a lot of things that was happening. And then we was going to celebrate last year, and I thought, hold on, it'll be 10 years next year. And I had such the reason why it was so, we wanted to celebrate last year is because I actually was going to give up the company in 2022. And that's because financials, things were happening, my children, and you always have that kind of pull with yourself of should I, shouldn't I? And what brought me back was a lady asked me, this project that I'm doing now, she said, what are you doing for Windrush? And I was like, nothing. I am actually working with another company. And she was like, no, but what are you doing? And I was like, nothing. And so she kind of pulled me out of my head, basically. And when I did this project, it was the first piece that I've written, historical, educational, and something that I've never done before. And when I performed it, the reaction was like, this is what you should be doing. And I thought, what am I doing? So then when we put this on, there was a demand. And so things started to pick up, and it was like, you have to have a 10-year anniversary because you were so close to giving up. It's only fair that you just celebrate all the struggles, which are not struggles, they're lessons that's made me the person I am today.
And I bet there was something in that question from that woman that she was meant to ask you that at that time.
Yes.
To get you over that hurdle. Just push it over that into the right direction.
Yeah. It was what are you doing?
Yeah.
Not anybody else, you.
Yeah.
She specifically wanted me to do something. And I realized that that time I'd kind of given up the company and I was working freelance and I was working like I'd never worked before. And I just thought, what's going on? Like, I said, I'm going to give up, but you don't want me to give up. And I've always said, it's not me. Mooville has told me, no, you're not giving up. Keep going.
Yeah. So let's jump back 10 years then.
Yeah.
Tell us a
Oh,
bit about where, when, why, what prompted Mooville, what pushed you into that direction in the first place?
yes. Okay. So this would have been 2014. I did a course, or it was like creative. It was called Creative Leap, and it was for individuals, and it was to do with producing your own theatre.
Okay.
I'd never produced a theatre before. I'd never created anything. I'd never done anything like that, and also I had a thing about my voice. I was quite not scared. I didn't believe in my own voice. So I wouldn't say much. I'd have my opinions, I'd have my thoughts. And when I did say things, because it didn't have that confidence that it needed, it didn't carry with people. So I just kind of was like, no. So when I did Creatively, my first performance was Light, which was about skin bleaching and identity. And again, never written anything, but I was from devised background, from Tracy, doing all the work and stuff like that.
Just for
So
anyone listening, Tracy was our director when we first met. Yeah.
mentor as well. So my background is devised theatre. I would say I am not a writer because at school I was told I wasn't a writer. I had good ideas, but I wasn't a writer. So from school I kind of planted that seed in myself. But then when I did Light, again, it's the response from people. They went, "Oh my goodness, wow, that was powerful. That was," and I was going, you kind of having that out of body experience. I was going, they're talking about my work, and they actually said it was cleverly written, and clever and me in the same sentence. I was like, what? And that time I didn't know I was dyslexic as well. So I just thought, okay, I've got something here. And then I think I had the idea of setting up a theatre company, but I'd never known how to do that. And I remember standing at the bus stop because I didn't drive then. And I was like, oh, I want to do a theatre company. And as I looked up, a bus went past. And on the bus, it said, "What's stopping you?" And I never forget that because I was like, nothing's stopping me but me.
Yeah.
So I think when the whole thing with Light happened, that bus flashed in my head and I went, I want to start my own theatre company. So I went to these loads of different business ventures, ISC. I remember that because it was like, do you want to be limited? Do you want to be CIC? Do you want to be... So basically went there and they set me up as a CIC.
And what's CIC?
So Community Interest Company.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted my work to be within the community, but also have that social enterprise as well. But I wanted to deliver something that is professional within the community, not that it's just, oh, it will do. No, everyone needs to have the same standard of theatre or art.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
Do we ever, when we start
No.
something, like, have you ever heard the phrase, let's just say yes and figure it out when you start?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
the first thing when I start something new is always,
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it and see what happens. I don't know how to do it. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And if it's
Yeah.
shit, it's shit. I don't care. I'll just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the maddest thing, I was pregnant
Oh,
at
wow.
the same time. So I literally gave up my work, gave up working for other people, and I was pregnant with my youngest and said, yeah, I'm going to start a company. And people were like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to start a company. And I did. So that's how Mooville was born. And I had some time out, but I was doing my website. So I do my own websites and stuff like that in the background. And again, as I started, I didn't have much confidence because I just had a child. And then I was like, but I'm a mum, but actually, why can't I be doing stuff with other mums or in the community and stuff like that? So then I just started to just do stuff, which was workshops first, and then it started to go back into the theatre. So that's the kind of, setting up Mooville in 2014.
That's
Madness.
brilliant. And I bet there must have been a certain energy about you because you were having a baby at the time.
Yeah.
Like,
It's weird. I was carrying a boy. So when I was carrying JJ, it's quite subtle. And when I was carrying Zai, I was a beast. I would have the hideous road rage. I remember chasing someone in the
wow.
car. Because it was, I don't know if it's the hormones, but I was a beast when I was carrying him. I felt like I could do anything. And even though I was really ill towards the ending of my pregnancy, it just didn't stop me. It was bizarre. But I think that's what I needed to kind of, at least just set it up ready. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Crazy, but good. Good crazy.
So, did you start working with pregnant moms or new moms? Like, is that where you kind of put your first step because you were surrounded by those people?
Yes and no. It's a weird one. I got asked to do an International Women's Day, and I think because I've done a lot of workshops for other people, when I do my workshops, people gravitate towards because of what I'm doing, and I also use theatre in it. And it was about empowering women, and I think at that time, being a new mum again, thinking of my self-esteem, because it was all about empowerment. I was empowering these women. Some were moms, some weren't. They empowered me, actually. So even though I empowered them, the kind of feedback and what they were saying, I kind of fed off that and thought, actually, I can do this myself. Even though I know I'm delivering an empowerment workshop,
Yeah.
sometimes it's that exchange with other women who are feeling the same way. And I think that's where my work started to kind of generate this personal response to theatre. What am I going through? Is someone else going through the same thing? And I think that's what was happening.
And then once you'd settled in, then was there a specific lead? I mean, what led you to decide what messages that you want to convey in those productions? What was the deciding factor for you?
This is the new thing that I'm very responsive. I didn't know I was.
Me too.
So it's like the injustice of things and my journey. And I never saw myself as a female Black creative before, but the industry let me know that I was a Black female creative. And I think it was trying to put light out again. I found it very hard in Birmingham, trying to put the word out. Even though I've had so much feedback, to book, when I did the tour again, Birmingham was the last place that I actually booked because I couldn't book it.
Why was that?
It's just harder in Birmingham. It's so bizarre. There's a few, I'm not going to name companies, there's a few that I know that my messages are still in their inbox. A few gatekeepers.
Yeah.
I just think it doesn't matter. There's this whole thing about being Birmingham and being an artist as well. But I felt being a Black female Birmingham artist, trying to get the work out there, even though people know who I am, just wasn't happening. And then I would see other people putting their work in, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And they've just literally done their show, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in here. Oh, but I've tried to. Okay, so I think instead of complaining, I just started to just work and put it where it needs to be put.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's when you say it's about the glass ceilings, you smash them. I'm very much like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say that I'm going to use a metaphor here, but there's a ceiling in every room. Doesn't matter which room you're in, there's always a ceiling. And if you smash it through, the world's your oyster.
Absolutely.
But going back to what you're saying about Birmingham, do you think, because in the previous, 10 years, for example, whilst we're talking about it, Birmingham's become if you're from overseas, Birmingham is in England, and it's kind of classed as a second city. Do you think, because it's become a lot more contemporary and hipster like, I'm going to say, I don't know how else to phrase it, do you think Birmingham has like manifested an ego of sorts when it comes to the creative industry?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Yes and no. I'm just going to be frank.
Yeah.
Yes, there is this kind of, I think there's a lot of clicking in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not part of a clique, and it's not a case of this is our stuff. In some cases there is, but it feels like if you're not part of those, then you're not in it. And I don't belong to anyone. I've never been part of anything. I've always been an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I came out with a theatre company, I wanted to work with everybody. But I learned very quickly that you can't work with everybody because actually they will take.
Yeah.
take. And I was, come on, everyone, this is art. We've got a message. And I learned to be thick-skinned. I learned to work in solace sometimes as well, which is not healthy. But to protect your stuff, you have to. And I think when I came into the art scene, and it was 20 years this month that I actually graduated from theatre school. 20 years. The art scene, there was a lovely art scene back then, and I was excited. And over the years, it's not there anymore. There's no warmth. There's not a point where you can go and say, you know what, this is where all the artists hang out. And you can say, there's none of that. But if you go to different cities, you actually feel that. And that's when I realised that, well, we've got a lot of work to do in Birmingham.
Yeah, I thought the theatre arts community in Birmingham was much stronger back in the day.
Yeah.
I love that phrase, back in the day.
True.
But
yes.
I mean, the other thing that I always think, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but is not every stone will fit in every basket. When we don't feel, and I'm part of this when I say when we don't feel like we fit into any, I couldn't give a shit anymore.
Yes.
Like I got to a point after being on the working scene, and I was on the road, I was traveling, I was always presenting, and I was like, I'm loving the work, but some of that work I was on my own, so I managed to become comfortable in my own skin.
Absolutely.
So that's when I started doing my own shit, and I was like, I don't care what anyone thinks. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like this conversation, off you pop. Come back to something that you do like. No point wasting both our time.
Absolutely.
And that's when you find your audience. So if you're still listening after I said that, thank you so much. We love you. But that's the point, isn't it? Like, not everyone will like every single thing. And one of the biggest things when I was making theatre was I wanted everyone to like it. Who's it for? It's for everyone.
Yeah.
I want the world to see it. F off. The whole world cannot see absolutely everything. It doesn't work like that.
100%, yeah.
It is just, it's a hard lesson to learn. But I mean, if MD is listening and they're in those early stages, don't waste time.
Yes.
I don't know if you'll agree with that, but don't waste years trying to put something in front of absolutely everyone. It doesn't work.
No.
And you will waste money, you will waste time, and you'll waste good performance space trying to fill seats with people you don't actually want.
Yeah.
Who will not resonate with your message.
100%. 100%.
But yeah, I went off on one there. Sorry.
No, I felt it, and I completely agree. I think it's true.
So, out of all the stuff that you're producing, then what pushes your buttons? What do you enjoy the most?
Getting my teeth into something. You know what it is? When you're jobbing actor, there's stereotypes. You fit into this. You've got to do this. When you create your own stuff, you can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. Like, people I think I was casted as the bully, as a witch, as someone who's going to argue with someone, and I'm complete opposite of that. Um, so I like to play with just being human. That's what pushes my buttons.
Yeah.
Anyone can be in any situation at any time. The strongest of strongest people you'd think could be in a relationship which could be about domestic abuse. It's not what you think, what some of the films or theatre will say, this is what this person should look like. Actually, I'm interested in what you don't look like and the human side of that person. So that's, getting my teeth into something. I always go back to light because I have to give it its props because it was the first thing that gave me my creativity of doing the theatre company and being a director and performer and producer of theatre. And that piece was the first piece that was about me. I actually went being vulnerable, and I realized that with theatre or any art form, if you tell the truth, then each audience member, even if they don't like it, there's some truth that will hit them. And I think that's where I like to be honest. I'm not going to pick up a project what I don't know nothing about and say, you know what, because everyone's doing that, let's do that. I need to do it because it's something that's in my gut and I'm going, you know what, this story needs to be said. The voice needs to be heard. And that's like my motto with the theatre company, the voice for the voiceless. And I harp on about the voice so much because when I was in theatre school, I don't think I had a voice at all. No one really knew who I was until now when I've come out of the theatre school and into the theatre industry. My voice is through theatre. And I aim to have those safe spaces for other creatives, people to have that voice within that safe space. So I don't know if I've gone on a tangent.
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask then. So when you were in theatre school, were you still trying to find yourself, and that's why you didn't feel like you had a voice, or was it just
I
something that
wasn't
was
allowed to find myself
okay?
because I was the only black female, and this is something that will come out later on. I'm going to do a piece about it. I felt like I was muted at theatre school.
Okay.
There was an incident, and I don't mind saying it, where I was given a main role and it was taken away from me. And I think if I had been given the proper chance for it, I would have done that role properly. Because now, maybe at the time, they were saying, "Oh, you're not ready," but then don't cast me in that role if I'm not ready, and don't give me the space and the time to grow within the role. Sorry. So I felt muted towards the ending of graduating. I'm lucky I did because there was so many times that I was ready to just like see you later. But I thought I worked too hard.
Yeah.
Just graduate and get out. That's all that's all I thought. And I think that's probably why I work in the way that I work. And it's funny because it's almost like it's 20 years, as I said, and it's kind of coming out a little bit of our experiences in different schools. But yeah.
See, I think I know the answer, but because you haven't said it, I'm going to ask the question: why did the role get taken off you?
Because,
or why do you think the role got taken off you?
I don't know. I do and I don't know because there's no proof.
Yeah.
I think at the time, okay, I got the role because I played a 40-year-old white woman, and it was so believable at that time that they didn't realize that I was a black woman. Does that make sense?
It
So
does,
it was
yeah.
like, we can't believe that you played that role the way you played that role. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know because you're coming into your own. And so it was then casted the main role for that role. And I was like, oh my goodness, wow. But then I felt like they changed their mind. I don't know. And they're used to working with the same people who are used to getting And no fault to those people because that's who they are. Do you know what I mean? But I think I don't know. But I did get to play the role. I did. And I got some fantastic feedback. But I just think the way it was done, yeah.
Yeah. So Light, going back to was that your first production, Light?
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
said that was about skin bleaching.
Yes.
Is that quite prominent in your culture?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
one of the reasons you focused on it?
Yeah. So it's to do with I called it shadeism at the time, but it actually now it's got a name, which is colorism. And especially in the Caribbean community and Asian community, it's looking at caste systems as well as shade. So the lighter you are, the better jobs you get. The darker you are, you get the lower rated jobs. But that comes from slavery as well. So you had inside slaves and outdoor slaves, and depending on if you're indoor, you're lighter skinned, and if you're outdoor, you're working in the field. So it's all kind of the historical side of it. And as a darker skinned woman, I knew I was getting treated differently to friends that were lighter than me or people that were lighter than me. And it wasn't about what people said, it was how they made you feel.
Yeah.
And I think, researching light and using my own kind of experience, because I never had like massive experiences, but researching other people's, I realized that there was this thing about why someone would want to lighten their skin, and that is just to fit in, be normal. This is part of like the script, look like someone, look like a celebrity, and that's where we all wanted to fit into something. And I realized that I was trying to fit in when I was 17, because I had a dream when I was 17 that I was getting lighter and lighter. And as I was getting lighter, I felt happier. And then my 17-year-old self was going, why did I have that dream? I didn't know I was going to go into theatre. I was just like, what's going on with this dream? And then I think I got obsessed with magazines, and it was like Black beauty magazines. So you see beautiful Black women at the front who are lighter skinned, but then at the back, you had skin lightening products, which I kept going, I don't get that. So be a Black queen, but bleach your skin, huh? And that's where the whole fight of beauty came into place. But so I've done about 8-9 versions of Light. And each one is different because I'm different and the time is different, but the story is still the same with it. So yeah.
Well, the magazine thing, firstly, that is just excellent marketing from these corporations who know exactly what the hell to put on what page, and it pisses me off. Something awful. And the dreams, no dreams, right? So I've had times, and I don't know if you feel this, but when you were going through either rehearsals or the production of Light, did the dream happen in exactly the same way in real life? Because that happens to me. I can have a dream of something, and years later, when I'm living it, it's exactly the same. And I'm like, I've been there in a different plane of existence. And I just really feel that it's showing me what the future looks like, so that I have to do it to make sure I do it.
Yeah. You know what? Now you said that, the actual video scene is the dream scene, is actually that, and was able to kind of, it was that feeling of being light and that inner smile. Yeah, it was. I eventually got it to what it's supposed to look like. Yeah.
Because that happens to me. Like, the dream happens in real life, but it's not immediate. And it's not until it happens. It's like, some people might think deja vu is the same thing because they don't remember their dreams, but I can be living something in real life and be like, I did this in a dream. This was telling me that this was going to happen, so that I didn't change my path.
Yeah.
That was just my second thought.
No, yeah.
No, but do you know what? Like, we're on the subject of culture. So, I mean, I was going to talk about this later, but I I've just put something down because I really wanted to say this as part of the culture
Mhm.
discussion. And I like, just for the listeners, I had no idea that Marlene was going to tell me about that production when she was at theatre school. I had no
Right.
idea she was going to tell me that story. But
Okay.
what I'm about to say and what I wanted to say in this
Mhm.
episode, it
Yeah.
just aligns perfectly. It's really bizarre.
Okay.
I love it. So
Go.
I was going to say, as part of this episode, that it's so important for everyone to have an awareness of different cultures and an interest in cultures, especially when there's a minority everywhere in the cities that we live in.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a massive myth these days that minorities don't exist anymore because of the whole equality and inclusion, and that's
Yeah.
being pushed down every company's throat and every
Absolutely.
community, that minorities are being forgotten about.
Yeah.
And I just think it's bullshit that people are forgetting about it. As a white man who's in a relationship with another guy who's Asian from India and he's Sikh,
Mhm.
I'm very aware of the ignorance and the lack of knowledge or even understanding that people have in other cultures. Okay. And I'm going to tell you a story because there's small microaggressions that happen that people in the world are unaware of. So I'm
Mhm.
just going to put it out there.
Yeah.
Things like eating beef. Now, for people who don't understand this, for an Asian, they won't get it.
Mhm.
But it's happened multiple times. We've been at parties and he's been eating something. And someone says, "Oh my God, that's beef. You can't eat beef. I didn't know you could eat beef." And he's, "What are you talking about? I'm Sikh." But because of the way he looks, that happens more often than I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And for him, he's, "Oh, it happens all the time." That's not the point. I don't like it
Mhm.
because I've put a lot of effort into finding out about other people's culture and having knowledge and an understanding of what other people around the world live like. But
Yeah.
but it interests me. So it's not that I'm being extra and getting on the inclusion bandwagon. Sorry, it's not a bandwagon,
No.
but it's because I'm interested in it. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's little microaggressions that you as a black woman are aware of all the time as well. But it
Yeah.
happens in so many minorities, even in the LGBTQIA community, happens every bloody day. Like, and it just really pisses me off. So then I was going to just go from there and ask about Rush, because your recent production focuses on Windrush, doesn't it?
Yes.
So tell us a bit more about that. Unless you want to add to my rant.
Right, and you know what? Actually, I will add. You asked me a question earlier about, do you know why you took the role? And I kind of went, And one thing that does stick in my mind, and I think that's why I refuse to speak RP when I go to auditions or anything like that, is you've got a Brummie accent and a Jamaican twang. And I think as an older person now, I'm like, but I'm proud of my Jamaican twang because that's what I speak at home. And I make sure that my children is having that dialect of patois. And actually, if that character had that, and what? Did you see?
Yeah.
So that was something that made me think, wow, uncomfortable. But sometimes you have to sit in the uncomfortableness. So then that brings me to Don't Forget the Rush,
But
which
sorry,
was
just before you go into that, do
go.
you know you mentioned earlier about always being cast in angry women roles or bullies and all that kind of stuff? Like I used to talk to some of the black girls in our drama class about like angry. I'm using air quotes for anyone who's listening and can't see this.
Yeah.
Angry black woman
Yeah.
personality, and I had never heard of that until they told me
Yeah.
about it, and I was like, "Do you get those assumptions as well?"
Yeah. I got commissioned to write a poem, and it has that in there. And I say, oh, would you like me to be like, Becky or Sarah, as quite softly spoken, but when I'm passionate, I'm then the angry black woman. but I'm actually talking because we have got a deep voice. Some of us have got deep voices, and there's a power in it. So if I'm getting passionate, it's not me getting angry. That's the point. And people know I'm not an angry
Yeah,
person
yeah.
at all. But when people start to go, oh, calm down, but you've just upset me. So you're allowed to be upset. But if I'm upset, then I am now the angry black woman.
Okay.
And so there's those conversations where you just have to breathe and just, okay, we'll just talk. And you can't be upset because you don't want to be labeled as that.
Yeah.
So you can't be yourself.
No.
you know. So yeah.
So
Hear that.
Rush, go. What's it about?
So it's a bit of a wild one. No, it's a beautiful piece which I'm very, very proud of. And I just want to say my nan passed away about 3 weeks ago, and I am dedicating this play to her. And I had the conversation with my mum, who passed away in 2017, but it was about my other great nan.
Okay.
I was speaking to my mum, and she was saying that I think it was my great nan was one of the first people to rent a house in Handsworth or something like that. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I had this conversation with her, and I thought, I would love to do a piece about when we got over here. And I didn't realize the importance of Windrush. That's what I want to say out loud. I think it was a little bit of they came over here and that was it. But the importance of the kind of foundation that was set for us in England. So then when the girl said to me, what are you doing for Windrush? Nothing. No, I want you to do something. Okay, I'll write something. So I was starting to write stuff because we did some workshops in, I think, 2018 with the elders. And I'm going to give my sister credit because she kind of comes in things with an angle. And she said, I'm tired of hearing what happens when we get to England. What happened on the journey? I said, I don't know what happened on the journey, but I'll find out. And what I found and discovered about myself is I love history and I love researching. And I was researching and writing this piece and found out so much about just the Windrush coming over here. I decided to not get to England, but actually do the journey of the Windrush. So the don't forget the rush is meaning don't forget where we were coming from, lest we forget as well from the army, Remembrance Day as well.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought, I don't want to forget, I want to remember. But what is it that we need to remember? So this piece is two women coming from Trinidad and Jamaica. And if you come and watch it, you'll realize why it's those two women and just their journey. But something happens along the way as we get into England. And it's literally just about the different stops, what happens, their story. But it's a comedy piece as well, which I'm proud about because I've gone back to my comedy roots. It's not so serious. There's serious moments in there, but I've gone back to, in my culture, there was a lot of plays with a guy called Oliver, like Blue Mountain theatre shows in Jamaica. And I felt like I was influenced enough that this piece has got that feel to it as well. So it's just kind of bringing that all together and just witnessing these two women journeying to England and why they're going to England.
And are these two women based on real people and real stories?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So there's a list of all the passengers, and I did take the names from people who boarded the Windrush. Yeah. I don't know who they are, but I just thought it's honourable to know that these people were actually on the ship. Whether they met or not, that's something I don't know. If they did, that's me going, okay, I'll step back. There's obviously some sort of divine intervention there that, but yeah, they were on the Windrush. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the funding side. Like, you work with Arts Council to get funding. For anyone listening, like over in the UK, Arts Council it's one of the governing bodies for funding theatre and the arts. So, like, where do you start to get funding for these projects?
I think my first ever funding, believe it or not, was Sports Birmingham. Sports Birmingham. This girl can, and I approached it from the side of, if you can't get up and exercise, then there's no point in doing the exercise. So with theatre, it's about that mind frame
Yeah.
of getting up and doing physical theatre to lead you to sports, and they loved that. And I did that to different schools, and I think that was my first kind of application that I wrote, which I'm dyslexic, so it's all over the place. I think I had a lot of people looking at it. I think I got about two grand, something like that, for funding. Then I worked with another lady, and she was the one who helped me get my Arts Council funding, a woman called Pat. And she was the one who watched Light, and she said, we can get some funding for this. And because she knew how to write funding applications, that's how it kind of came about, of getting funding. So I think it was being, if people love what you're doing and they really want to genuinely help, they will help you.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't know, for Arts Council, if you're dyslexic, or there's you can't write a bid, there's access funding for that, which not a lot of people know. And that's what happened. So I got someone to help write the bids for me. I articulated what it is that the project is, and sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. It's not like, okay, once you get one, you keep getting them. I've had reply back saying, well, they're just like someone better than yours. You've done all that hard work, you're like, okay, what can I do? And then you resubmit it, and it's like someone else has looked at it and gone, oh yeah, actually I like this. So it swings and roundabouts, and there is people do say there's a formula, but I haven't had that formula yet. I just pray, meditate, please.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How do you know where to put your applications for the projects? Like, how do you know what's relevant to the projects that you're working on?
It's what they're looking for. So
Okay.
sometimes they will say it's for young people. So Birmingham City Council, before everything happened, they had funding for Next Generation, and I always wanted to do Mini Moves, which was a summer art school, and I just knew that would be the funding for that, because it was young people. And before Bring It On Brum came out, I was actually wanting to feed young people while they're at summer school, because I knew how hard it was in the summer holidays as a single person at the time, getting your children food, and it's just a cost.
Yeah.
And having somewhere safe for them to learn, meet other children, I just thought, wow, I've got my kids, they're with me, I can do this, and that's what I did. So that was Birmingham City Council. And they've got different types of funding. So I think sometimes they will say, this is what we're looking for. And I'll go, is there a project that we're doing that's slightly like that? Because what I didn't want to do was bend everything that I'm doing just to fit the funding.
Yeah.
Because even though they've said this is a need, actually in our community or in some different communities, there's this need, and there needs to be sometimes a compromise with the funders to say, well, I know you've identified that, but that's lacking as well, and there could be a crossover, but sometimes it's like, no, this is what we need to look for. I think we've done I don't know if have we done National Lottery? I think we've done National Lottery. No, I don't think I've ever done National Lottery, actually. I think it's all been Arts Council, commissioned work as well, schools. Yeah, a lot of commission work.
And that's like part of your outreach as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So for anyone who doesn't know what outreach is, can you just tell them a bit about what that is and how it helps?
going into either community settings or in the education field, and using, in my case, theatre, to reach to the young people about subject matters. So say if it's like body image and identity, then we would do a whole outreach project about looking at self-esteem, body image, how they look, and then I always let them lead and they create their own work because it's their voices. I can't speak for the young people then.
Yeah.
Because I'm not young anymore. Well, my back tells me I'm not young. But yeah, I can't speak for them, but they can speak for themselves. I'm just here to guide and shape their story so that they can tell it. And you know, outreach, I love outreach work. It's just, you're not a teacher, and they respond because I'm in the industry. You can kind of just kind of speak to them on a level and say, you know what, you're better than this, and you can really push them. And I think that's why I'm setting up my own drama club now, because it's been overdue. People have been saying for years, why haven't you got your own drama kind of like sessions? And that's because really I just wanted my Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just rest. But I'm actually ready to deliver that because I didn't realise I worked with two young 15-year-olds who had work experience at Mooville Theatre, and they did not know any theatres in Birmingham.
Oh. And that's how you know
And
there's a need for it. That is, if that tells you anything.
I was just shocked. They're talented, but they just slip through the mark because they don't know. And I think that's where I just thought, you know what, you need to do something. You need to train. You need to kind of get them to come together and learn about what theatres are in Birmingham. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's why I do love my outreach work as well.
That's amazing. And where can we find more about Mooville and the outreach work that you do, or your socials? Tell us all of the stuff.
So, gosh, I'm trying to be on social media as much as I can. I do have someone doing a fantastic job. I'm going to big up Maya because she's fantastic with the Mooville Theatre. So she helps with the Instagram, which is Mooville_theatre, and that's Instagram. And then Facebook, we've got a Facebook page, which is just one word, Mooville Theatre, and Facebook. Website, www.moovilletheatre.co.uk. And we're not on X or Twitter, but the website has got a lot of information on there, and you can sign up for the drama group, which is called Youth in the Ville. I will release mini moves later on, but Youth in the Ville is 11 to 18-year-olds because I love working with that age group. It can be a little bit feisty, but I love that.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of,
they're easier to communicate with.
Yeah, they are, and they're so honest. And actually, that's what you need for theatre. You need the honesty.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're doing that. You put that on the stage, and it's like, I said, that attitude needs to be on the stage, and I think that's where you get that mutual respect from them. So at Birmingham Black Box Theatre, where I'm at now, in the rehearsal space.
From the rehearsal room, I know.
From the rehearsal room.
That's dedication.
I was like, nope, I'll go upstairs, that's fine. But yeah, that's it. And there's a few things that's coming along. Oh yeah, we're doing Hear Me, See Me, which is Young Women's Voices campaign. And that's about self-respect and relationships amongst themselves, with their parents, with relationships as well. And that was funded by Rosa, I have to say that. So thank you to them. But yeah.
Excellent.
And that's it, really. Yeah.
Well, Marlene, it's been a great chat. Thank you again for coming to spend time with us. It's been amazing to see you again. And thank you all for listening and tuning into this episode of MAMWAA. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Stay tuned for future episodes and follow us on Facebook, Gordy Camp TV, and on Instagram and Threads at Gordy Camp. So until next time, look after yourselves and stay well.